Imagine an 80-year-old person. It's probably someone who looks a bit frail, they're slow, maybe they're walking with a cane, and they're generally with low strength. But this doesn't have to be your future. There's a study on a Norwegian 80-year-old man who had the VO2 max and fitness of someone who's 25 to 35 years old. That's 50 years lower than his chronological age, which is just insane. This 80-year-old wasn't just walking without a cane. He was sprinting and even doing L-sit pull-ups. That's in the top 0.001% of health of his age. The study was published in 2015, and it was done on an 80-year-old Norwegian man who remained anonymous. Here's an overview of his fitness markers. His VO2 max was 50 milliliters per kilogram per minute, which is exceptionally high for his age. It's the top 0.1% of VO2 max among 80-year-olds. It's as high as a 25-year-old who doesn't exercise and a modestly fit 35-year-old. An average 80-year-old might have a VO2 max of around 17 to 20, which is close to the disability line, below which you can't do daily activities without assistance. A lot of 80-year-olds you're accustomed to seeing are not functionally independent and they need caregiving. This guy, however, had 2 to 3 times higher VO2 max than the average 80-year-old. There is research that a VO2 max of 50 milliliters per kilogram per minute compared to a VO2 max of 17 is associated with a 300% lower risk of mortality. It means that this Norwegian guy had a 300% lower risk of dying to anything during the next year compared to other 80-year-olds. I don't think you really understand how crazy it is to have VO2 max of 50 at the age of 80. Even athletes in their 80s have been seen to have a VO2 max of 39 on average. This Norwegian guy is the Michael Jordan or the Tom Brady of 80-year-olds. Interestingly, the man reported that he had been tested for VO2 max twice in his life before. Once at the age of 25 when he got a score of 75, and the second time at the age of 45 when he got a score of 58. The score of 75 is absolutely insane and the equivalent of an Olympic athlete. The scientists estimated that if true, he saw about a 7% reduction in his VO2 max, going from 75 to 58 between the ages of 25 and 45, and then settling to 50 at the age of 80. That's comparable to the 6 to 11% reduction per decade seen in other research. This is an absolutely critical point. The reason he had a VO2 max of 50 at the age of 80 is because he had a VO2 max of 75 at the age of 25. The higher your VO2 max is in your youth, the higher it's expected to be in your elderly years, as long as you keep exercising. If you have a bad VO2 max in your youth, let's say it's 30 at the age of 30, then you're going to plunge into the disability zone much sooner compared to having it higher and maintaining it higher throughout your life. He also had a resting heart rate of 60, which is what an average person in their 40s would have. His maximum heart rate during exercise was 175 beats per minute, which is exceptional. At the age of 80, his maximum heart rate would be expected to be 140, but his was 35 beats higher, which indicates very high fitness and good heart health. The scientists also looked at his biomarkers and some blood markers. Here's an overview of that. He had good body composition with a body fat percentage of 12 and a BMI of 23. His muscle mass made up 49% of total body weight, which is good. His waist to hip ratio was excellent, 0.85, which means he has a much narrower waist than hips. That's a sign of low visceral fat, which is good for heart health. His blood pressure was slightly elevated, 136/78, but that could also be that he was nervous for being in a study. His cholesterol was pretty low, total cholesterol at 4 millimoles per liter or 154 milligrams per deciliter. LDL was 1.9 millimoles per liter or 73 milligrams per deciliter, and HDL was 1.76 millimoles per liter or 68 milligrams per deciliter. His triglycerides were also on the lower end, 0.55 millimoles per liter or 48 milligrams per deciliter. His fasting glucose was 5.2 millimoles or 93 milligrams per deciliter, which could also be because of the stress from the study. However, his hemoglobin A1C, which is glycated hemoglobin reflecting average blood sugar over the past few months, was 6.2%, which is in the pre-diabetes range. With age, blood sugar regulation worsens, so it's expected to result in higher blood sugar, but it's still not most optimal. His C-peptide was 0.3 nanomoles per liter, which is on the lower end. This means that his body wasn't producing that much insulin, which explains the high blood sugar. So it looks like he had some early signs of poor insulin secretion and declining beta cell functioning in the pancreas. His kidneys were working normally as his creatinine was 82 micromoles per liter, which converts to 93 milligrams per deciliter. And because of that, his eGFR was 78, which could be better, but creatinine isn't the best marker of kidney health. So how did this guy become the Michael Jordan of 80-year-olds? Well, he grew up in a farm and he was working the fields already at the age of 13. This gave him an incredible baseline for fitness and muscle strength, because it's hard work that takes many hours every day. Interestingly, he never did formal competitive sports, or at least there are no records of it. But it might be that he still did some recreational sports, because it looks like he loved to exercise. In his later life, between the ages of 70 to 80, he was reported to have had a structured exercise program. 3 sessions per week, approximately 90 minutes total per week. 20 minutes of endurance, including moderate to threshold intensity, and around 10 minutes of strength training, focusing on upper body and core, performed with 10 to 12 reps per set. He also continued to do ultra-endurance ski and bike races, Vasaloppet 90 kilometers and Birkebeiner 54 kilometer ski races. He finished at the ages of 69, 71 and 74. That's a great achievement for someone in their 70s. Birkebeiner mountain bike 89 kilometers and a half marathon 21 kilometers at the age of 74. His daily step count was around 10,800, which is above average. In total, he spent about 2 hours 20 minutes doing moderate activity and 12 minutes of vigorous activity per week that got his heart rate high. This means he did 7 times more moderate physical activity and 2 times more vigorous activity than the current guidelines recommend. It means that to be as fit as a 35-year-old at the age of 80, you need to be training a lot more than the bare minimum. This guy is a perfect example of old man strength that I talked about. He's not too bulky, he's not massive, but he's pretty strong and overall very fit. You bet that if you shook his hand, he would have a very strong grip because he did a lot of farm work. But most importantly, he did a combination of aerobic exercise and resistance training. Many people neglect one or the other. A 2020 meta-analysis of 11 studies found that resistance training alone was associated with a 21% lower risk of mortality, but combined with aerobic exercise, it was a 40% lower risk. So you should do both. Unfortunately, we don't have any information whether or not this guy is still alive, because the study was done 10 years ago. He would be 90 years old right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was still alive, because he was in top 0.1% of health when he was 80 years old. Now, he did have poor beta cell functioning and poor insulin secretion, which could have decelerated his health quite rapidly over the last 10 years. But the most important thing is that if you want to be as fit as a 35-year-old at the age of 80, to be able to run, to walk without a cane, and just be independent, even get off the toilet without assistance, then you need to start taking care of your physical health and fitness much sooner than that. You can choose which direction your health is heading towards, and it starts today. If you want to become healthier than 99% of people, then check out my 10-minute video about it next.